So exercise, assume that marks of a 10 student are stored in an array. Write a Pascal code to calculate the average marks of 10 students using both for and while loop structures. So we'll start with for loops first. So we know that we have to start same program, and then let's make it average marks, whatever the name you are going to give. And then let's put this as only output. Assume that I already have this. Okay, the next thing is we have to, define, create variables. So can you tell me like what variables we should create for this? What variables we need? One thing is we have asked to have the marks are stored in an array for 10 students. So how do you write that part? Yes, Janani. So marks, and then how do you define it as an array? Array, and then what? So 10, either you can start with 1 or 0. So when you can say 1, so we can go for 10. And the marks, then we know that to iterate, we can have and then real. So I have put, now what you have to assume that this is everything is we have. So I want you to think about what to put inside. Yes, how to calculate this. We have array of marks and we can store 10 10, and then we have index starting from 1 to 10. We don't know what's inside for the time being, and we don't care, right? But we are going to add whatever we have. So what do you type? How do you type? We can say total equals total plus what? First we are going to add the first element. So what is the first element? What is the first element? So that's marks 0, right? Then marks 1. And at the end, we have to have marks 10. So what you should type here? Yes, total equals total plus. Anyone? Right? So I put the general term. So if you put this, the general term will be, let's say, I. So you can say marks I. And now we know we have to go I from 1 to 10. So which means I can have a for loop for I equals 1 to 10 do. And within the loop, we are going to have this. So let me put a semicolon. But one thing is missing. What is the value of the total in the beginning? Yes, it should be 0, isn't it? So I can say total, it should be 0. Total, it should be 0. So once this is done, we have the total marks. So to calculate it, yes, we can say average is, we get the total and then we'll divide by 10. And finally, we can say right length, yes, average. Okay. This part given in for loop. How do you write this as a while loop? Can any of you can tell me? While loop. So for 1 to 10 do, right length 1. So we can say while I less than equal 10 do, begin right length I equals I plus 1, end. This is not the main end. That's why we have a semicolon here. Oh, තව එකක් missing. අපි ආරම්භකගේ. So the first initially, so the I should be equal to 1. Right. අපි අලුත් කොටසක් යන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මේ දක්වා අපි කතා කරේ පොතේ සම්පූර්ණ ප්‍රෝග්‍රම්ස් ගැන. මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රම්ස් ඇතුලේ අපිට නැවත භාවිතා කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට ලියන්න පුළුවන් උපක්‍රම ලේඛ වර්ග දෙකක් තියෙනවා. So there are two types of what we call subprograms. So they are called functions and procedures. අපි කියන උපක්‍රම ලේඛ ශ්‍රිත එහෙම නැත්නම් උපක්‍රම ලේඛ කාර්යපටිපාටි කියන. Okay. So let's take down. When programs get complicated, subprograms can be used to simplify the main program. There are two types as functions and procedures. උපක්‍රමලේඛ භාවිතයෙන් සංකීර්ණ ක්‍රමලේඛය සරලව ලිවිය හැකිය. ක්‍රමලේඛ ශ්‍රිත functions සහ උපක්‍රමලේඛ කාර්ය පටිපාටි යනුවෙන් උපක්‍රමලේඛ වර්ග දෙකකි. Right, main program starts with begin, end with a dot, and then we will have inside we have whatever the statements. So these functions as well as procedures comes before. Remember, functions procedures come before the main program. අපේ ප්‍රධාන ක්‍රමලේඛයට කලින් තමයි මේ ශ්‍රිත සහ කාර්යපටිපාටි කියලා එන්නේ. ඒතර අපේ වැඩසටහන අනුව මේ දෙකම එන්නත් පුළුවන්, දෙකෙන් එකක් එන්නත් පුළුවන්, එකක්වත් නැති වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right? So procedures and functions come before the main program, and there could be both procedures as well as functions as well as one of them or none of them. Okay? So each procedure start with same procedure, and then you have begin and end, but end with semicolon. Functions are the same. Functions start with function. Right? I'll come to this point. Right? And then again begin and end with the semicolon. Right? So this is in your textbook. Maybe you can keep some space to take down, right? So keep some space, do not spend time on taking down, but let's do a example, right? How to use both these functions and procedures. Okay, let me take an example. Okay, so I will ask you to write a simple program. I hope you should be able to do this. Let's consider calculating area of a circle. So let's write the code for this. What we know, right? What we know is we have to type program. Let me say the name of the program is area circle. We will have, let's say, both input and output. Then if you remember, first of all, we have to define the constant. We have const. The pi value, I will define it as 22 divided by 7. And then we have variables, let's say radius and area. For both, I will define the data type as real. Mama real කියලා define කරනවා radius එකයි area එකයි. Then we have begin. Within that we have we have to get the radius. We say right len, enter radius. Semicolon. And then you have to read radius. Now you are getting the radius and is stored in the variable radius. Then we can calculate area. Pi into radius into radius. So finally we can say answer right len if you say area, so this message will be displayed, and then you display area. End. Right. So that's how normally we will write a program to find the area of a circle. Okay, the next thing we'll look at how we may use procedures. What you need to remember is procedure will not return any value to main program. So let me explain this, right? So let's take down. Now consider use of procedures. Right. So let me explain how you may write the procedure. Now remember I told you when you write procedure comes before the main program, right? I told you procedure comes before the main program. අංකව කාර්ය පටිපාටි එන්නේ අපේ ප්‍රධාන ක්‍රමලේඛයට උඩින්. හරි? සහ මේකෙන් කිසිම දෙයක් අපහසු එන්නේ කියන කතාවකුත් කිව්වා. මම මේක I will try to explain this, right? Okay. So let me start. So most of the stuff will be the same, but there are slight differences. So the starting will be the same. So that means we will say program, and then we'll say area circle, and then we will say input and output. So almost the same with the previous one. There's no change. Constant is also the same. We define the constant pi, and then that is 22 divided by 7. And the variables also quite the same, but without area. Make a note of this. I will explain why this is happening. Radius, right? We will put radius only this time. We will put real. මේ සැරේ අපි දාන්නේ constant එක define කරන විචල්‍ය. හැබැයි විචල්‍ය මෙතනද radius විතරයි. ඇයි කියන එක මම පැහැදිලි කරනවා. right. දැන් මේකෙදි කරන්න යන්නේ මෙන්න මෙහෙම වැඩක්. අපි මේකට ලියන procedure එකක්. දැන් පුතාලට මතකනේ අපි excel එක කියනවානේ. ඔව් පුතේ. Continue. So we are creating a procedure, right? Procedure, something similar to use of average, sum in Excel, but slight differences are there. Those are called functions. These are called procedures. So I will try to explain what this is, right? So the procedure start with procedure, and then inside the procedure, what you're going to do, you are going to calculate the area. So I will say calculate area. Now this time calculations happen inside the procedure. The procedure ඇතුලේ තමයි calculation එක වෙන්නේ. So I will say we'll define the which variable inside this var. We will say it's r real, right? So here we will have var area real. So inside this we define the area because we are going to calculate the area within the procedure. මේකෙදි පුතේ procedure එක ඇතුලේ තමයි අපි calculate කරන්න යන්නේ. So we will say begin. So that means the beginning of the procedure. And what we do inside the procedure is we calculate the area. So we know if the area is, now this time we get the radius as r in the procedure. So this will be pi into r into r. And then right length we will say area and this will be the end of procedure. Right. හොඳයි මම ආයෙ පාරක් පැහැදිලි කරොත් පුතේ procedure එක ඇතුළේදී තමයි the main program එකේදී හැමදේම උනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා. අපි radius එක ගන්නවා calculation වෙන මේ ඔක්කොම වෙන්නේ main program. දැන් මේ main program එකට කලින් procedure එකක් දානවා. මේ procedure එකේදී වෙන්නේ මේ area එක calculate කරන එක මේ procedure එක ඇතුළේදී වෙනවා. දැන් බලමු මේක කොහොමද main program එකේ වැඩ කරන්නේ කියලා. So let's see how this works inside the main program. Right? So we will start the main program saying begin. And then with the begin, you are going to get the radius, right? So I'm going to say right len enter radius. So within the main program, I'm getting the radius. So that means read radius. Now everything happens inside this one. So procedure, so we are calling procedure. අපි procedure එක call කරනවා කියලා කියනවා. We say calculate, right, area, right, we are sending radius. And that's the end of it. And then we will say end, that's the end of it. Right, then බලුවොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා I will try to explain this what will happen here. So we will get the radius here. We will get the radius here. And then we pass this radius to the function here. So what will happen? So we will have the procedure. And then when you say radius, you get the radius here. And then you pass the radius to this place. So these are to pass here to this are. Right? හරිද පුතේ බලන්න එක තේරුණාද කියලා මෙතනදී කරන්නේ අපි මේ ඔක්කොම වෙන එක කැඩුවා දෙකට මෙන්න main program එක. So this will be the main program. So let me write down. So this is the main program. So this is the main program and this is the procedure. So this will be the main program. And this is the procedure. Right? The procedure එකේදී වෙන්නේ මෙතනින් අපි radius එක ගන්නවා. We are passing radius from here to procedure and within the procedure it will calculate the area and it will display. Right? මේක මෙතෙන්ට ගිහිල්ලා මෙතනින් නවතිනවා. Next one we are going to look at with functions. Right? We are going to look at with function. Functions. Now we are going to look at how to use it function, same program, how to use functions to write down this. Right. Right, let me start. So this time we are going to use procedures. Functions. So it's like, instead of procedure, we are going to use functions. That function is also comes before the main program. So let's see, I will try to explain this to you. Right, so we start same program the same way, area circle. You will have both input and output. There's no change with the first line. Then we have const pi equals 22 divided by 7. And then var, okay, this time again we will have both. I will explain why. Radius and area in the main function. So we will say real. I will explain why we are getting this. Right, now we have the function. So we will create the function because it comes before the main program. Function. So we will say function calculate area. This time we are going to calculate the area of the circle using a function. Right, now for that we will use the radius. We will define it as a real. And okay, so in a function it will return the value to main program. So we will use real to say that it will return the value of real to the main program. I will explain this. So we have many lines, so we will say begin, and then within the function we will try to calculate. So this time we are trying to return the value to main program. So we will use the same name as the function name. So the function name is calculate area. And then we will calculate the area. We have pi value and the radius is r, and then this radius is r. And that will be the end, that the semicolon. Okay, if you compare the procedure earlier, so there we have output earlier, right? It will come, it pass radio from here to here, and then you calculate the area, you display it here as well. Within the procedure it happens. Now here it's not like that. You don't print here, which means in the main program you are going to print it. So we have begin. First of all, we are getting enter radius. And then you get the radius saying read. This is not change in both all the programs. Then you call this. Okay, when you're calling, you are getting the answer. So area, and then you are calling the function. So remember, we calculate area, and then you are passing the radius. Right, so what happens, this goes there, here, calculate the area, and you come back to the answer, come back here again. Right, so that's why it's like this. So then finally you print it here, area, right, and that's the end of the main program. So what happened? So in this case, what will happen? I told you, like, you start with this. We have this main program, and this is the function, right? Make a main program and make a function, right? So this is the main program. Right, and then this is the function. So we will have function here, right? We have the function. So what happens here inside? So now when you call the function, so this is called calling a function, like sum in Excel වලදී අපි sum කියලා ගත්තේ පුතේ ඒ වගේ function එකක් පාවිච්චි කරද්දී. So we are sending radius to the function. So this will go to the function and it will come here. So this becomes R now. R is radius. It will calculate the area here and then it will send back. So this is the first one, right? And then you calculate the area and the value of area will come back to the main program. So it will come here, right? So let me draw it again. So it will come back here, right? So this is 2. So it will come back, the answer back in here, replace this whole thing. මෙතන calculate වෙලා පුතේ area එක මෙන්න මේ සම්පූර්ණ එකටම එනවා function එකේදී. ඒතර area එක අපිට calculate උත්තරේ මෙතෙන්ට එනවා. area එක display වෙන්නේ මෙතන. ඒක නිසා තමයි මෙතනදී radius එකයි area එකයි දෙකම real විදිහට අපි define කරන්නේ. Right. For the exam point of view, what you need to remember is if you use a procedure, it will not return any value to main program. So value goes here and it's end up there. But if it is the a function will return a value to main program. So that's what only you need to remember in the exam point of view. අපි මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ තමයි දැන් කාර්ය පටපාටියකදී ප්‍රධාන වැඩසටහන විතර අගයක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ පුතේ. මේ අගේ පාස් කරනවා මෙතනින් මේක නවතිනවා. හැබැයි අපි ශ්‍රිතයක් නම් පාවිච්චි කරේ අපේ අගය නැවත ප්‍රධාන වැඩසටහන වෙත ලැබෙනවා. මේක තමයි පුතාලට මතක තියාගන්න තියෙන විභාගේ පැත්තේ. But I have done a complete, example you to understand, and hopefully this will help you in future, right?